Hello and welcome to today's RMIT Next Fest talk on careers in criminology, justice and legal dispute. I'm Daniel Polidano and I work on the marketing and student recruitment team here at RMIT University. And welcome to today's session. We have a jam-packed panel with a range of speakers who I'm really excited to introduce. Before we kick off today's discussion, I just want to acknowledge the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past, present and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, I want to pay my respect to the wider unceded lands of this nation. At RMIT, we're committed to redefining our relationship in working with and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander self-determination. Our university's goal is to achieve lasting transformation by maturing our values, culture, policy and structures in a way that embeds reconciliation in everything we do. In line with the principles of Bunjil, we are changing our ways of knowing, working and being to support sustainable reconciliation and to activate a relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous staff, students and community. Within today's session, we're going to be exploring RMIT's Criminology and Justice and Legal Dispute programs. And these programs provide the perspectives of policy, politics, sociology and criminology in contemporary Australian and international society to improve social justice for all. I'm joined by an exceptional panel today, including industry representatives and academics from our programs, and I have the pleasure of introducing them now. So I'd like to start off with the Associate Dean, Michelle Riders of the Justice and Legal Studies. Michelle, do you want to just introduce yourself if that's okay?
And I'm on mute, which is always that place to start. Hi everyone. Yes, as Daniel said, I'm the discipline head of our group, and I'm also the director of the Bridge of Hope Innocence Initiative, which is something that I'll talk to you about a little bit later.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. And then next we have Robin Cameron. Over to you, Robin.
Hi there. I'm the manager of the Bachelor of Criminal Justice, which is one of our three undergraduate programs. I'll be speaking more about this program and some of the opportunities involved with it. Thanks.
Fantastic. Next up, we have one of our industry representatives, so Alex McNamara. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Daniel. So my name's Alex. I'm a federal agent with the AFP. I'm currently working in human resources, but prior to that, I did 5 years in counter-terrorism, so that's where I've worked most recently in policing. And I also started my AFP career as an RMIT intern.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. Next up, we have, oh goodness, I'm worried about this last name. I'm so sorry if I butcher it. Rachel Chrysostomo. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks, Daniel. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon now. So my name's Rachel. I'm also an intern student from a while ago, back in the 90s. So I'm now the Learning and Development Coordinator. So predominantly that just means training, but I also coordinate the work placement program for the WIL program for RMIT's Crim Justice students predominantly. So I've had an awesome career and I wouldn't be here without my RMIT Crim Justice. So I'm all about it. So that's all I've got to say for now. So thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure. It really is.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And next up, we have Sharon Haddaway. Over to you, Sharon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sharon. I am also a senior registry officer at the Supreme Court of Victoria, and more recently have jumped into a new role, which is the Court Network Liaison, kind of the middleman between the Supreme Court and court users. I am also an intern, now a worker of the Supreme Court from RMIT. So again, I wouldn't have had this opportunity if I didn't have my placement at the Supreme Court, and have been here for 9 years now. So thank you, RMIT.
Love it. Thank you so much. And just before we get started, I just wanted to mention also that we have the Q&A or live chat open, and we have a whole team in the back end assisting with questions throughout. So if you have questions on the specific course or questions for our presenters, please put them through there and we can pass them on. We'll have a section at the end of the session where we'll open for sort of live Q&A from the audience as well, but feel free to keep those questions coming. So first up, I just wanted to request from Michelle, if you could start off by giving us a bit of an overview into the criminology and legal dispute programs on offer at RMIT.
Thanks, Daniel. Robin's going to talk in a few moments about the Bachelor of Criminal Justice at RMIT, and that's really closely associated with our Bachelor of Criminology and Psychology. So a lot of the information that Robin's going to give you holds true for one half of the Bachelor of Criminology and Psychology. The great thing about criminology and psychology is you've got an amazing opportunity to decide where you want to take your degree. So because it's made up of two halves, one psychology, one criminology, you've got two distinct pathways. And because the psychology part of the degree is accredited, it means that when you complete, you can decide whether or not you want to pursue psychology with a view to practicing as a psychologist or taking the criminology pathway. And because the degree has 5 electives, there's a lot of flexibility about how you want to tailor your specialisations early. Kind of try before you buy. So a lot of students who want to go on and practice psychology, you'll have an opportunity to move on through honours and further study at RMIT towards clinical practice. And in the same way, you know, we have a further education stream through the criminology orientation. And I will let Rob speak about that because he caretakes that criminology part. In legal and dispute studies, you've got a really unique opportunity to virtually move straight into the workplace. Legal and dispute studies is also a program about 2 halves. One half is very much about the law and the law in context and the law in the action. And the other half is about dispute resolution. So you'll learn about the mechanics of law, different types of law, you know, interesting law, criminal law, family law, evidence. And you'll also learn about what we call the how, what, and why of law. So, you know, what happens when the law is applied? What are the effects on people? You know, what are the unexpected repercussions, you know, when the law is applied? And you'll also learn about legal systems, alternative dispute resolution procedures, which will take you down that pathway. And you will be able to take an elective that will put you in a position of being accredited as a mediator before you leave the degree, which is fairly special. And I think I'll just hand over to Rob to continue the criminology arc there.
Thanks, Michelle. So we have the 3 degrees, and I think one thing that's really important, just to echo what Michelle was saying, the 3 degrees, there's some degree of overlap. So you should never feel like you have to choose between or make a final choice. You can treat RMIT as your destination in the justice and legal studies field. Pick the degree that works best for you. And by the end of your first year, if you want to shift between them, you can, because there's quite a lot of overlap. So, for instance, between criminology and psychology, there's the same common element within the criminal justice degree that includes the psychology stream. So with criminal justice, there are 2 streams, but they're very closely related. And it's easy to sort of maybe almost confuse the 2. One is criminology and one is criminal justice. Criminal justice, we learn about how the institutions, processes, and procedures of the criminal justice system function. And we also do have courses that give you practical sort of training in how to become someone who can work in that field. The criminology stream, on the other hand, it's less about sort of the current function, but more about how you of the criminal justice system and more about how you understand crime as a concept. How does crime relate to society? That way you have a well conceptually informed understanding of crime, you know why crime occurs, who are offenders and who victims are, and that allows you to continue to update your knowledge about the criminal justice system as it changes and evolves. Like I'll go on later, but one thing that's crucial about the criminal justice program is that it has a built-in internship which our 3 industry partners have all spoken to and we're so proud of. But that gives the students the opportunity to do a placement and to sort of get themselves into the field by the end of their studies. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robin and Michelle. The first question for Rachel, which I might throw to you if that's okay, just from the Supreme Court's perspective, can you just provide some context as to the history of the court and where does the Supreme Court sit within the court hierarchy?
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. I think what's really interesting is after there was settlement in Australia, the first courthouse was obviously New South Wales. So it wasn't until the separation between states where we had Victoria, which was back in 1852 from memory, was when we had the first Supreme Court. In fact, the first court in the state, and it was the Supreme Court. And being the first court at the time, they inherited or had all jurisdiction of any kind of matter, whether it was petty theft, whether it was divorce application, adoption. So, but as the years have evolved, obviously we've got new courts. So new courts were established and those courts then had their jurisdiction. For example, Magistrates Court deals with predominantly like minor theft kind of cases or civil disputes under 200,000. So we've got the Children's Court, coroners. I won't go into too much detail. But in terms of the court hierarchy, the Supreme Court is the highest court in the state. So what that means is we deal with very serious, thankfully it's not a big part of our space. The majority of our cases are civil cases. It's a very small criminal space, which is predominantly murder and manslaughter. So that's a very small space, but we only entertain serious criminal matters as such, and also civil disputes, serious complex civil disputes. But being the highest court in the state, we also hear appeals from the lower courts. So, yeah, so I think, and then after the Supreme Court, you could then go to the Court of Appeal, which sits within the umbrella of Supreme Court. So if you were to do your placement, for example, in the Supreme Court, you might get opportunities to work in those different areas. So that's where we are, the Supreme Court.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Sharon, I might throw the next question over to you, if that's okay. What is the structure of the Supreme Court and what kind of matters do they hear? I guess Rachel's touched on that a little bit, but do you want to provide a little bit more context if possible?
I think Rachel was going to also touch on that.
Oh, that's fine. Go for it, Rachel.
Can I actually just add with regards to the history of the court? We thought this would be interesting to add at the moment. So back in 2019, the Supreme Court introduced an engaging and informative podcast called Gertie's Law, which gives listeners a look inside the Victoria's justice system. A broad range of topics are discussed in the podcast with special guests, so such as the Supreme Court judges discussing, misunderstood or complex matters as part of the court's work, such as sentencing, mental health, juries, and the criminal trial process. In the podcast, we revisit historic cases, as well as getting to understand the people of the court. Also how the modern justice system operates in a 19th century building. So there's been a lot of updates with our historic, courtrooms, which has been a lovely challenge for the Supreme Court. And also how the Supreme Court has responded to the challenge of a global pandemic. So that podcast is available on the Supreme Court website. If you just search Gertie's Law, it should come up for you. It's a really interesting podcast to listen to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And definitely we'll even try to post a link just with that podcast, if that's all right. So just to the Q&A team, if that's okay. Alex, I know you're having some technical difficulties, but I'm hoping you are back on. Can you tell us a bit about the area that you work within at the Australian Federal Police? And are there specific roles within justice or criminology that prospective students may not have heard about within your at the Australian Federal Police?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Excellent. So currently I'm working within the HR team. I've been doing that for nearly 12 months. So this is an unsworn role. I'm doing this at the moment mainly because I'm part-time, having come back from maternity leave. That's not to say that you can't come back from maternity leave into operational teams. I have done that before as well. It just suits me more at the moment to do this HR role. So this role involves working closely with the corporate services and the executive management. And it's really interesting because coming from the operational area, you get a whole different perspective of the AFP and providing strategic support to management and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you don't necessarily get insight to as an operational member. We also, a lot of our sort of bread and butter day-to-day work in HR, like any company probably, is providing support to our members. So regarding pay and conditions and entitlements, so a lot of problem solving in that regard, and some industrial relations type of work. But prior to HR, so I'm sort of seconded to HR at the moment, I guess, and I'm still owned by the Joint Counterterrorism team. So I worked in CT for about 5 years before I moved into HR. And so the team is made up of the Federal Police and VicPol, Border Force and ASIO, and so we all work out of the Melbourne office. And we do long-term investigations into, well, not all long-term, but predominantly long-term investigations into counter-terrorism crimes, I guess. So the difference with this area is it's largely proactive rather than reactive, that a lot of the other crime types are. And it's a lot of sort of new legislation and untested legislation, which makes it really interesting. So that's why I enjoyed most about it. In terms of jobs that people may not be aware of, I guess, well, coming into it, there's obviously the policing side of things, but there's also all the corporate support and the operational support like HR. We've got finance, all those sorts of structural teams. But there's also other positions if policing specifically is not what you're after. So we have intel analysts, investigative assistants, and ops support members. So they're members that are all basically critical to our operations because they support the investigations and they allow the investigators to do the investigative work, and they provide all of the support around that in terms of intelligence and just a lot of the investigative support there. So there's those sorts of roles as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. My next question I might throw to Michelle. Why should our prospective students look to choose a program within criminal justice, criminology or legal dispute when compared to a law or business program? And what skills are unique to these programs? So Michelle, or I might start with you.
Thanks, Daniel. I think that there's a lot. I was a lawyer long time ago, and since arriving at RMIT and being involved in criminology and justice, I have really regretted not having done this before doing law, because it gave such an inside look at the system. There was so much information that I really could have used that first day that I started practicing as a lawyer, when I made all those mistakes, because I didn't know how all the pieces connected and I didn't know who was what and what the consequences were. So the kind of skills are very much, that inside look at the system, and we take a really critical look at the system. Develop work-ready skills along the way. For example, criminal justice, we very proudly say, was developed by criminal justice professionals for criminal justice professionals because they saw the need to educate their workforce. So we've got really deeply embedded links with industry, and developing work-ready students has been on our radar, for at least the last 40 years. So I think we do this really well. And so, for example, the opportunities to do placements are really deeply embedded in our programs, and we've got these marvellous examples of how that works out for students. And with placements, you have opportunities to do your placements either here or overseas once the border's open. You can either do it as part of your core study or as an elective placement. So you can have two placements in some situations. And also it's the diversity of career options that open up for you. So you can work in government, you can work in law, you can work in policy reform, law enforcement through policing and through border force. You can work in non-government organisations and human rights organisations. You can focus on victim support and advocacy. You can work in different court services, tribunals, dispute resolution organisations. You can work with prisoners inside and outside. And this is just to name a few. So our students really develop those broader social science, arts, critical thinking skills that open doors, but also come with the sort of the inside knowledge of what they need to hit the ground running the moment they hit the workforce. And others, while I have the floor, Rob talked before about the commonalities across our programs. So if you start thinking, I want to do legal and dispute studies, but you think, no, psychology is the thing, these commonalities mean that, it is a lot easier to move across and change direction because students, we do have noticed that students, the moment they do one course, they immediately go, that's what I want to do. And then the next course, they go, no, I want to head in that direction. And so it's great having that flexibility that we can, we can help you be flexible with. And finally, it's, I think one of the major things about our programs is that you can enter the workforce now, particularly when we have an embedded course that will enable you to become a practicing mediator while you're studying. And we have a number of situations where students have actually been offered employment while students and on their placement. So I don't know if Rob has anything to add to that.
Over to you, Rob.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to sort of emphasise and expand a bit on is what Michelle was talking about with flexibility. And also I could see it. This is something we try to do in the degree, and it's something that is also reflected in industry. Alex was speaking to the importance of flexibility for her career, maternity leave, returning in ways that sort of suit her. And one thing we really try to do with our teaching is in many ways try to replicate current trends, current standards, and current best practice within industry, within the actual degree itself. So one thing we've been trying to do is really think about what it means to be flexible, because there's changing circumstances for students, not just with COVID, but lots of students work full time, lots of students are seeking to move into work earlier. There's many roles you can apply for where you don't need a degree, but a degree will enhance your long-term career prospects. So, studying part-time is not a problem. Studying, we're able to deliver online and face-to-face now. So the flexibility element is really important. And we really do try to sort of see what industry is doing with regards to new best practice and kind of replicate it. And we've also done that in the design and the content of our subjects. We now focus a lot more on social justice issues because that has become an increasing priority within industry. Understanding the cycle of crime and the cycle of harm isn't just about sort of looking for bad guys. It's also looking to address the underlying factors that lead to people being harmed and lead to people offending. And so this is something that we've really tried to build up in the time that I've been the manager of the degree to sort of meet the sort of more complex needs that industry has identified and asked us to sort of build on. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Robin. I might throw the next question to Rachel, if that's okay. So we've heard how much from, I guess, a teaching perspective is emphasised through our work integrated learning opportunities here at RMIT. And I know for a lot of students, a major focus when they're comparing degrees is on the amount of placement or industry opportunities. Can you please tell us from the Supreme Court's perspective what type of work our students do with the Supreme Court on these type of placements or industry projects?
Sure, thanks, Daniel. Predominantly, it is administration. So although you're in the court environment, the workplace, it's 50 days. I set up a very comprehensive program. There's induction. But a lot of the work is predominantly in one of our registries. So we've got 4 registries, and they are given real work. So they're treated like a real employee. They're part of a team. They're given tasks that are administration. So I think the only thing that we always check, because I do interviews with students as well, take them around, make sure they're comfortable, explain the work as well. But it is administration. So a lot of it's data entry, working with files, preparing orders. There's not a lot of attendance in court, just like Sharon and I. We are behind the scenes in the registry. So a part of the program is attending court just for observation, but it's not a big part of the role as such. So predominant administration, hopefully. I don't know if Sharon wants to add anything to that.
No, all good from Sharon. Okay. I'll come back to Sharon for the next question, but I might throw to Alex if that's okay for the same question. So what type of work, integrated learning opportunities are available with the Australian and Federal Police?
Sure. Our current program, we try to do 3 rotations during, I think, the 12-week internship. So that'd be 3 4-week rotations, and we try and rotate interns through different crime areas, essentially, so that they're exposed to some different crime types. So the types of crime the areas that they might go through would be some of the task force, the transnational serious and organised crime task force, or financial crime. They might go through human exploitation and cyber, or there's also a possibility of going out to the airport and just experiencing the operational environment out there. So basically, in a similar way that Rachel said, there's some administrative work involved. Obviously, we can't take interns out into the operational environment, but in saying that, they're essentially treated as investigative assistants. So they'll be embedded in an operational team within one of those areas. And within that team, they might do administrative work such as, data entry and going through files and managing the evidence system and things like that. But that's very reflective of a lot of the work we actually do. Police as well, a lot of it's administrative sort of work. But there's also the opportunity to sort of shadow members if they're attending court. You won't have any responsibilities in court, but you'll be able to attend and see how the proceedings all unfold. There's, also assisting in compiling brief of evidence. That's a large part of our administrative tasks, I guess, and the more help we can get, the better. So that's obviously one of the ways that the interns can contribute, which is great. And just generally being exposed to the operational environment, I think, is probably one of the most beneficial things you can get out of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. My next question is for Sharon. What kind of job opportunities are available for graduates from the programs listed today? So criminal justice, criminology and legal dispute within the Supreme Court of Victoria.
So job opportunities here, as Rachel has kind of mentioned, is predominantly working in one of the registries. My placement was in the principal registry, and usually after the placement, short contracts are available as well. If this is kind of, it's placement, so you're testing the waters to see if you enjoying working at the Supreme Court and in the principal registry, for example. So short contracts are available after placement. That's how kind of I got into the working at the Supreme Court. I was offered a short contract straight after placement, which was fabulous, and I've been here ever since. There is also, it's a high success rate with more than half of the placement students securing the job after placement. So the jobs, they're available on the careers website, where we can kind of assist them with the job applications as well. We're there to assist.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And Alex, I might throw back to you for the same question, if that's okay. So job opportunities once students graduate from these programs.
Sure. So similar to what Sharon said about following the internship, often, not always, it depends on our budget and vacancies and everything, but often interns are offered an unsworn position following their internship. So I was employed straight into what was back then the OMC area, which was a corporate area that dealt with a lot of organisational reporting. So I was employed straight into that. At the same time, I had my external policing application underway. So I was fortunate enough that essentially once I started with the AFP in my internship, I have never left since, and that was 9 years ago as well, nearly 10. So I went straight from there to college. So I guess different pathways are through the RMIT internship program. There's also an AFP graduate program. So that's basically sort of a try before you buy program as well. It's a grad year similar to an internship where you do a number of rotations. It used to only be offered in Canberra, but as of this year, it's the first year that it's been run out in all of the states. So we've got, I think, 3 grads in Melbourne this year. So they're unsworn members. So our grads this year are in finance, HR and property and exhibits, and they're guaranteed positions, permanent ongoing positions following their graduate year. So that's another pathway that's quite competitive, I believe. And there's also obviously the police recruit pathway and the protective service officer recruit pathway.
And just for those at home who are curious as to what sworn versus unsworn roles are, Alex, do you mind just providing context there, if that's okay?
Sure, sorry. So the sworn roles are the operational policing roles. So in order to undertake them, you have to do your 6 months training at the Recruit College in Canberra and be sworn in as a police officer with the Federal Police. And so those roles include all investigative areas and also our aviation capacity, which is sworn policing. The other sworn area is the protective service officers. And so they're the ones that you see providing basically protective service capacity to Parliament House, to Melbourne Police Office, to dignitaries, those sorts of things. The unsworn roles that I refer to are professional roles. So they're members of the AFP that are not police officers. So they might be in HR, and some of these roles you can do as a police officer, but you're not undertaking a police role in that capacity. So they might be in HR, in finance. A lot of our intel analysts are unsworn professional members. All our corporate area generally. So that's the difference. So either a sworn police officer or protective service officer or a professional support member.
Thanks, Alex. And just a reminder to those viewing from home, the live chat is open. So if you have any questions, we'll get to that sort of live chat component of the session shortly. So feel free to pop in your questions there. Next question is for either Michelle or Robin, or whoever feels up to the challenge. How do students play a role in implementing justice while they're studying, so within our programs?
Thanks, Daniel. We have 2 very unique projects that I think are a really great example of this. And these projects allow students to create change and actually implement some form of justice. They give students transformative experiences, but also give RMIT students an opportunity to transform the lives of other people, which is pretty special. And I'm talking about the Bridge of Hope Innocence Initiative, which is the project that I manage. And students can do that either as an elective or core internship course. And in that, students they investigate the cases of people who believe that they've been wrongfully convicted and research those cases. which is, I could talk a long time about that. There's lots of media on the RMIT, lots of information on the RMIT website about that. And the second project, which I think is even more special, although I hate to say it because I like the Bridge of Hope, is the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program. It's the only one in Australia, so it's so unique. And as a student in these programs, in the criminology and justice programs, you will have an opportunity to study in prison alongside prisoners. And in doing so, you'll know that you really do change lives because you bring the world to them. Like, that's such an amazing thing. And along the way, you will transform your own understanding of the criminal justice system and your own understanding of yourself. You can probably hear, I can't talk highly enough about it. It's truly one of the most amazing experiences a student can have. And the other thing about both of these projects is that they create their own student worlds. So the student groups, the student alumni that grow out of these are really special. So you will always be a Bridge of Hope student, and you will always be an Inside Out student and have these ongoing opportunities to make a contribution. And I don't know if Rob has more to add to that.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I can only, affirm what Michelle is saying about those two highly engaged experiences. For those students who really want to get in there, work closely with other students, build that kind of network with them that is not just a student network, it's actually an industry network. You'll know those people. You're starting to build peer networks as you move into the criminal justice system. And the way I know that these are tight networks is at graduation, I can see the Bridge of Hope crew. It's like a group of students who are all celebrating their graduation together. And I can see the Inside Out crew, they're all hanging out together. So building those tight bonds are really important as a student. And so what is great, though, is those opportunities can be done in addition to your regular placement. So for the Bridge of Hope initiative, you can do that as a placement, or you can do it as an elective subject. The Inside Out project is also an elective subject. So you can do a lot of engaged activity throughout your undergraduate studies. And one thing I wanted to just, identify in the comments of our three industry partners is that there are placements and then there are placements. There will be lots of degrees where there'll be a placement and you have to find your own placement. You're on your own. What we've done is build partnerships with all the key criminal justice agencies where when you do your placement, there's meaningful work. There's a space within that organisation carved out for you where you'll be looked after, where you're valued and things like that. So I can't emphasise enough that there's placements and then there's placements. And I think these are genuinely really valuable. The final thing I wanted to emphasise on doing justice is that within the criminal justice system, we have what we would call the formal justice system and then the informal justice system. And the informal justice system, it's what you do as an individual and how you comport yourself and how you relate to others. And from day one in first year in the introduction to criminal justice subject, we start thinking about what it means to sort of practice justice, through your own actions and how you relate to others. And so this means you're already doing justice by thinking through how individuals fit into the justice system before they're even part of it. So I do think there is so many opportunities for that transformative experience.
Thanks so much, Robin and Michelle. My next question is for Sharon, if that's okay. Putting on your RMIT graduate cap, if that's all right, can you tell us a bit about how RMIT set you up to be ready for the workforce?
Well, for me, the opportunity to actually do the placement was allowed me to kind of have that foot in the door and gain that real experience working in a court. To be honest, I had no idea that the Supreme Court, didn't it was mostly civil. I had no idea about that. I assumed with the Supreme Court that it would kind of be the same as Magistrates Court where you're like a bench clerk. I thought, I didn't realise that in the Supreme Court that job is for an associate. And that, the Supreme Court is predominantly civil and administrative. So having that opportunity to do the placement at the Supreme Court kind of allowed me to kind of figure all of that out. Now, with the placement, as Rachel mentioned earlier, you do the real work and you are treated as an employee. So it's, working the same hours, 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and you're, once your induction is done and training's done, you're working independently as well as in a team, and kind of involved as it was with RMIT. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also it's great to kind of test the waters, and kind of gauge whether this is the type of work that you want to be employed at. And I feel like if I didn't have that opportunity by RMIT, I don't think I would have gone down this avenue. So and the fact that I've been here ever since is kind of a testament to RMIT and the Supreme Court. So
wonderful, thank you so much. Alex, question for you: what does success look like for students or the workers at the Australian Federal Police? There's quite a few students who might be looking at a range of different programs, and I guess when they're locking in which course is for them, they may want a rewarding career in a specific area. What does success look like within your organisation?
Sure. I think success within the AFP is obviously it's about achieving results in investigations, but it's also really important to note that you don't always achieve positive results in investigations regardless of the quality of work that you put into it. At the end of the day, a lot of it is up to the justice system. So we can put together the best brief of evidence, or we can, especially in counterterrorism, spend this enormous amount of time putting together a brief or following an investigation, only to have that basically shut down by powers outside of our control. So I think personally the greatest sort of success you can have is in the AFP is presenting yourself really professionally, really engaging in your investigations, or if you're an unsworn member, in your work. And that's the stuff that gets noticed by your supervisors as well. Really contributing to the team environment, keeping yourself upskilled. So there's a lot of online courses and training that you can put in for, that you can maintain your skills. And also just day-to-day stuff. Personally, day-to-day, just achieving, or not necessarily achieving, but progressing tasks that you might have, that sort of thing, and just being professional and representing the AFP values, I think, is really important.
Thank you so much, Alex. We might now go to audience questions, if that's okay. So my first one is for Rachel. How has the impacts of COVID-19 and lockdowns and the like impacted the Supreme Court and more generally the justice system? Are you able to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. With the Supreme Court, I think we were quite prepared without realising COVID was going to happen. A lot of work in the few years leading up to it, particularly last year, was transforming all of our courtrooms into e-courtrooms, so the trial could proceed completely electronically. So with the impacts of COVID, obviously, we were able to really take advantage of that, which was, we were very lucky. So the main impact, I think, would be with the criminal trials, where most of them require a jury. I think that's the biggest impact. So we're very busy. So everyone's obviously working from home, including judges, etc. But I think with our civil cases, they're still able to get through. It's predominantly the biggest impact is criminal matters with a jury because of the spacing and etc. So they were put on hold. So there's a huge delay in that space.
Thank you so much. And Alex, from your perspective within the AFP, has your line of work, I guess you're in HR, but within the AFP, has COVID-19 impacted quite a bit?
It has. So when we started our first lockdown last year, I was still in CT, so still in an operational policing role. It doesn't affect our investigations in that we still need to be able to meet our investigative requirements. We don't just shut up shop and go home. But we do have to manage our workflow and our personnel in the office, which is really important because we need to ensure that if some of our members need to go into isolation, we need to make sure that we limit the number of members that they've come in contact to so it doesn't take everybody offline. So the main impact, I guess, it's had is a lot of rostering. As Rachel said as well, we've actually been, over the last couple of years, really starting to input a lot of flexible work anyway, a lot of working from home opportunities, a lot of setting everyone up with laptops and phones and everything. So that's played really well into lockdown. But essentially at the moment, it's if you can work at home, you work at home. But obviously for operational requirements, if you need to be in the office, you're in the office. And operational activity such as search warrants and those sorts of things, they still go ahead as needed.
Thanks, Alex and Rachel, for those comments. Michelle, I might throw the next question over to you. Are there internships offered with the AFP, Supreme Court, etc., via our Criminology and Psychology double degree, as well as through the Legal and Dispute program, or are the placement opportunities just exclusive to the Criminal Justice degree?
No, it's open to both.
Okay,
we've just made changes to the Criminology Psychology degree to make sure that opportunity is easier for students to access. Fantastic.
Robin, the student has asked, and Michelle as well, I might get you to both chime in, from a criminal justice perspective, what sets our degree apart from other universities?
The criminal justice degree specifically?
Yeah. If the student's looking at an alternative program,
Yeah, I never want to speak ill of the colleagues up the street or across Melbourne, but we do I know we're emphasising the internships a lot, but it's because we put a huge amount of work into it. We have 4 staff members working in the area of making sure the internships run smoothly. We have the history of those partnerships, and the internships are built in as core courses in the Legal and Dispute Studies degree, as well as the Crim Justice degree. So there's that guaranteed experience that students will get through the course of their studies. But also through that process, though, it's not just the internships that benefit, it's sort of many aspects of other subjects as well, because we do have like a biennial meeting with industry partners where we get feedback on recent graduates, feedback on the syllabus that we teach, and also feedback on any changes we're looking to make to that syllabus. So our teaching is at all levels informed by the needs of industry. So that kind of dynamic partnership between the two, I do think sets it apart. Honestly, having looked at them, some areas, they may do things better in some respects, but I really think we are good on that.
And I just add, Daniel, because I think the question was also about the double major, criminology and psychology, and what makes that different. And really it is the opportunity. So it's the flexibility of, because we have the 3 undergraduate programs with so many overlapping opportunities, so that you can, jump ship midstream if you want to and head off in a different direction and specialise in what you want to do. But it's also, as Rob said, the internships and the projects and the other opportunities that really give you a real world perspective that make our degrees so different to the others in the market.
Thank you, Michelle. And the next question I might also throw to you, if that's okay. With the criminology and psychology degree specifically, will students look deeply into criminology from a psychological point of view and vice versa, or the 2 separate streams?
No, you do look at it from a psychological point of view. So the criminology content is the same to the content that's delivered in the criminology stream in criminal justice, but you are looking at from the perspective of future psychologists and looking at the people aspect of that kind of behaviour. So, so while there are separated, there will be separated notions, we do put a great deal of work in bringing the two halves together. And at the moment, we're very conscious of bookending and making sure that both streams make perfect sense when they're put together and are useful for students heading out into the workplace.
Can I just add one way we do this is that a number of the staff teaching these subjects have formal qualifications, and in many cases, and in some instances, are actually themselves practicing psychologists. So they're able to, they have criminology background, but are also qualified in the area of psychology and can supervise research projects. So they have high-level qualifications in both. So it's not like there's a split between the two teaching areas. We do have a good deal of overlap.
Fantastic. And I might, this is a question that I might throw to the panel overall, and I'll start with you and Michelle first, Robin, if that's okay. What skills are important for a student to succeed in justice, criminology and legal dispute, would you say? And then I might throw to industry as well for their perspective. I'm
assuming that's to succeed in the degree.
Yes.
The simple one is complete the assessments and read the assignments. I think you need to study what you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you are probably less likely to succeed because it's just going to be, such a chore doing it. So that would be my main advice, is bringing passion, because if you bring passion, you're going to make time for it. And then you're going to find the time to develop the skills that you need and develop the academic skills that you need to succeed. I'm sorry that's a simple answer, but honestly, it's the truth.
That's okay. Robin, did you have anything further to add?
Yeah, sure. I can expand on what Michelle's saying. Like, it is sort of a slight cliche to sort of say, like, do what you love or find passionate, what you're passionate about, but it does really help you engage. And one thing we try to do in the first year subject that I teach is try to get students to identify what it is about the criminal justice system they're interested in, identify that, do an early assignment on that topic to try to make it practical. But one thing I would also say to try to encourage students, or I think a piece of advice for students to do well in their undergraduate studies, is treat it like they've already joined the workforce. Treat it like they're building networks with future peers in the workforce. Don't treat it sort of like you're still at high school. Treat it like you're now out in the world, that you're an adult. We do want to treat people like adults. It's your responsibility to do well at study. And as such, you should be learning skills around how to manage your time, how to become resilient, how to sort of work in what is, we have to face it, sort of uncertain circumstances. And so by thinking of it that way and sort of trying to develop that kind of independent self-management skills, you will be, I think, better equipped to deal with undergraduate study, but you'll also be like making yourself the kind of mature, flexible, adaptable person that is very ready for the workforce.
Thanks, Robin. And Rachel, as someone who runs the sort of internship program from the Supreme Court of Victoria, what kind of students are succeeding on that front? What do students need to bring in terms of skills?
I think people skills is critical in that we, as public servants, we serve a lot of customers, most of whom are not in a real happy position. So just being empathetic and really trying to communicate very well to understand their question. But we're also serving the judges. We're here to support the judiciary as well. So I think people skills is a critical thing in terms of working within the courts. Obviously, it's something, you develop and becomes easier I hope it has for me, as you get older. But I think just knowing that a lot of it will be a lot of interaction with other people. You're not predominantly sitting behind doing an IT job as such. So a lot of people networking, I think, and building relationships with other courts as well, and a lot of stakeholders, legal firms, etc. So I think that's the main key.
And is it similar for yourself with the AFP, Alex?
Yeah, I think so. People skills are really important because we're always working within a team. But also I think problem-solving skills are really critical. A lot of our work is sort of thinking outside the box. So being able to look at something and sort of unpack it maybe a little bit differently. So I think problem-solving skills are really great. Resilience is really good as well. And just that flexibility and adaptability, because our workplace and our environment is always changing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I might ask one more question to the panel. First and foremost, I'll start with our academic team. What's the most rewarding aspects of your job? So I guess teaching students within this field.
The students.
Yeah, that's correct.
I say 100%. It's why we turn up. It's why we love teaching. It's why we do what we do. It's like having new children every year because we ride with your successes. We want every student to succeed. It's really important to us. And even though we say goodbye at the end, that doesn't change that relationship that we have through the academic journey. 100%, I think everybody I know in our team would say we turn up every day because of the students.
Robin, confirming that?
Yeah, no, honestly, it is. Like when you see a good outcome for a student, it is so good. Like, and these are big programs, and sometimes I do sort of get lost in a world of emails. But then when you sort of, are working with a student, like it is really rewarding, I have to say. But I think for me, the thing that I really like the best is trying to help students find like what it is about justice that they're interested in, or help them find what their conception of justice means to them, because it is a bit different from everyone else. Like I obviously have my own sort of political biases and things like that, but I don't want to sort of just imprint that onto students. I honestly want people to find their own way through it. I don't want everyone to look the same. So giving students a framework to try and explore and find what they are, the justice concern and what they want their approach to be is really satisfying. Because I know like that they're more likely to be committed to that than if I sort of just tell them what to think, which I am honestly not interested in doing. Thanks.
No worries. And Sharon and Rachel, from your perspectives from the Supreme Court, what's the most rewarding part of your roles?
Just working at the Supreme Court, to be honest. It's an amazing place to work at, and the people here have, especially our principal registry family. Everyone's just so supportive, and we've created like lifelong friends here as well. So it's been such an honour working in the principal registry. Also, there's so many opportunities that are represented to you here, to progress your career, whether it's as a secondment or, just a higher duties, a job. It makes a big difference in your life. And and I think Rachel can attest to this, it's just making a difference in someone's life as well, whether it be a customer, a client, or just one of your colleagues. It's definitely been a highlight, of our life.
Anything further to add there, Rachel?
I would like to add that the placement in terms of the students with the WILK program, it really is, absolutely is a foundation to so many people's careers. So I've been coordinating this program for students now for, dare I say, about 15 years, and I've been here to support them. Even I may not hear from someone for a long time, but if they need anything or guidance, but just I'm so proud when I see someone get a job opportunity. And some people do the work placement and say, this isn't quite for me. I'm really more interested in police or whatever it is. That's absolutely fine. It's an opportunity, but my biggest thrill is when I see someone have a career out of the courts and go past my level, and I'm just so proud of it. And I'm always their number one fan. So I just so glad to be part of it. So go RMIT.
Guys, I want to come and join the Supreme Court family. What about yourself, Alex? What's the most rewarding part of your job?
I think the most rewarding part, as as a police officer is the team successes you have. So like personal success is great, but when you've had a team of people working on a really big investigation for a long period of time, for example, one of the ones I did in counterterrorism, I think we were working on it for about 4 years, which is an unusually long one. But still getting to the end of that and having your brief in place and getting results at court, just that sort of celebration you have as a team is really special. It's a real journey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex and everyone, and for being panelists this afternoon. I know it's over lunchtime, so really, really appreciate it. And I know our prospective students do as well. But that's all we have time for today. A big thank you for joining us this afternoon. And again, a big thank you to our panelists. If you're after more information on our justice, legal and criminology programs, there will be a presentation at our upcoming open day, which is running virtually this coming Sunday, the 29th of August. And that presentation time slot is for 1 p.m. So if you're after questions about entry requirements, any further questions on placement or anything like that, come along to that session because you'll actually hear from speakers from each of the programs as well. So hoping to see you then. But thank you so much again for joining us and hope to see you at RMIT next year. Thank you.